Hey, how are you today? Glad to be here. Yes, I'm Jean Harville, and we're going to continue our discussion on slow processing speed. And you can go back and look at yesterday's to kind of catch up to speed of where we are, right? And at the end, I'm going to give you 3 strategies that you can do at home that will help to improve your child's social emotional well-being. So have you ever, here's my question, okay? So do you ever get overwhelmed with all the information that comes in? Everywhere, either from your phone or from the TV or from your kids talking to you or your husband, or when you're out and about. There's always information that you're receiving, and it's language, and you're trying to process that language, right? Or have you ever been in a conversation with somebody and you're really focusing on what they're saying, but what they're saying is just like not sticking with you, going in one ear, not the next, out the other, and you feel like you're just really struggling to listen to them and to understand and process what they're trying to say. And maybe you're missing out on important information, like where was that party and what time does it start? What am I supposed to bring? And you go home and you just feel like your brain just feels like a snail trudging through peanut butter, right? It's really difficult. You're like trying to work your way through all this language that you've received and process all that. It can be pretty daunting at times and exhausting, right? Hi, I'm Jean Harville. If we haven't met yet, I'm the founder of I'm the founder of Raising Kids Who Love to Read. I'm a reading strategy coach as well. And our community, our Facebook community, is for Christian moms to find those most effective reading strategies for their kids to turn them from struggling readers into confident readers. And right now I'm on my business page helping kids with reading. And this is where I do my lives each day, Monday through Friday, and along about the middle of the day, depending on the mom duties, right? And so I like to try to give you some tips and strategies that you can use at home with your own kids as well. So, like I said, we were picking up on processing speed, which my speed right now is not very fast, but we're gonna do this. It's really interesting. So yesterday we're talking about sometimes people think that processing speed has to do with our executive functioning skills, and it really it does in a way. It does affect our executive functioning, but it's not our executive function skills. So the executive function skills are those 3 processes that we have that help manage our resources and to be able to reach a goal or to achieve a goal, right? So flexible thinking is one thing, is that letting us change our gears and change how we're thinking, where we have new information that's coming in, we need to analyze it, we need to place that information so that it's within our brain, okay? Working memory, the ability to hold on to that new information and to keep it at the ready to use before we place it into the long-term memory. Our self-control is being able to make decisions based on the information without getting emotionally involved. Self-control allows our kids to stay focused until the task is completed. So that's actually executive functioning skills. And where the slow processing speed comes in, processing speed determines how fast one can use those executive functioning skills. That's all it is. Processing speed is how fast you can use those skills. So the executive skills are just fine. They can do all those things, but give them time to do it. You have to give them the extra time, and they are able to complete a task, complete reading, complete whatever it is that they are having to complete. But they have to have that extended time, the extended amount of time. So how do you know if your child has slow processing speed? Here's some symptoms to take a look at, okay? So not being able to produce work, or even though they try, right? Inconsistencies in the time it takes to complete a task. Sometimes it's slow, sometimes it's fast. Difficulty judging one's capacity to complete something in a timely fashion. Sure, Mom, I can get that done, when they really can't get it done in that amount of time, and you notice it's taken them such a long time to even get started on it and to actually do it, to actually completing that task. How about frequent arguments about homework? Okay, how about difficulty stopping what they are doing and getting ready to start another task? Oh, that just hit home with me right here. If I'm involved in a task, I don't want to stop and start another one. So that's why I'm always late wherever I'm going, because I don't want to stop what I'm doing. And it takes me a while to get into the activity or get into the task. I have to go through it and I have to process, like, what is this all about? How am I going to sort of like organize it? And what's the first thing I need to do? And then I'm like, great, I have a plan of action. Now I'm going to implement. So I get started on it, but wait, I have to do something in the next 5 minutes, or I have to stop what I'm doing to go pick up a child or to go take a child somewhere, or myself to get somewhere, and I don't want to stop because I'm finally in the groove. Does that happen to you sometimes? Yeah, it makes it difficult to shift those gears, and then you say, okay, this is where I left off. You go do what you need, and you come back, and you have to rethink the whole process again in order to get yourself aligned and in the mood or in the frame of mind that you need in order to continue that task. It does feel like I'm trudging through peanut butter just to get something done. I don't know if you all ever feel that way, but that's a little personal testimonial here. So how about chronic lateness? That was the next thing that was on my list here. Failure to complete or turn in schoolwork or homework assignments. Maybe, like difficulty taking notes or copying down the information quickly. Has your child ever come home with only half the instructions? They're not really sure what they're supposed to be doing because they weren't able to copy down the information quickly enough. The bell rang, they had to change and go to the next class. So it makes it difficult, right? Do you experience the same thing? Hey, Suzanne. Yes, I know. It's that processing. We have so much coming in. We have to process that information. It does make it difficult, doesn't it? Okay, so what causes slow processing speed, you ask? Biology of the brain is the short answer. So this is what was interesting when I found this out, because it almost validated me. Like, why do I have slow processing speed? It's not a behavior. It's actually something that's going on within the brain. So let's get into that, okay? So studies in the field of neuroscience suggest many factors contribute to slow processing speed, and they can be found in the frontal lobe of the brain. And the frontal lobe houses those executive functioning skills that we just got finished talking about. So that's why people confuse and they say it's the executive functioning skills that's causing them to be slow, but it's actually not. It's the processing speed of being able to use those executive functions. So let's see, when we have decreased volume in the frontal lobe. All right, so as neurons die in the frontal and temporal regions, these lobes atrophy or they shrink. It's believed to be the most common cause of dementia in people younger than age 60. So those who are younger than age 60, that becomes atrophied a little bit quicker, speed. But for those of us who are over 60, we are just naturally aging and becoming, our frontal lobe is decreasing as we age, okay? And so that's one of the reasons why there. How about the composition of neurons? Myelin insulates and improves the signals sent between the neurons. So processing speed slows down when the lower amounts of myelin is present. And then the neurotransmitters. There are neurotransmitters that increase that responsiveness in sensory information, and it may be a factor in the slow reaction times and the delay in the information processing. And then the last part, size of the space between those neurons. So there's white matter between those space between the neurons, and the larger that space, the slower it takes for the processing information for the neurotransmitters to do their job to transfer that information. So there is something going on with the brain, the way the brain is developed. So what effect does slow processing speed have on social skills? I'm going to tell you a story. I've seen this more often than not. He really wanted to be on the basketball team at school. He had been practicing his shots. He was able to talk his way through the setup of the shot. He knew how to shoot the ball so it would rebound off the backboard straight into the basket with great force. The day came for tryouts, for team tryouts. He anxiously walked into the gym. Hands were sweaty. He wiped them on his blue shorts. And where he found his team members where they were sitting, and they went over to the bleachers to sit among those team members. He rubbed his sweaty hands on his blue shorts to dry them off. His focus was on the coach. He really was intently listening to those instructions. When your name is called, step forward, the coach said in a loud voice. The coach called all the players one by one, dividing them into 2 teams. He gave them instructions on how each would take a turn at shooting the ball through the basket. The team was then to run certain drills. He didn't quite catch what the drills were since the coach was speaking so rapidly. But he'd watched enough basketball games on TV, he thought, I can figure this out. I can do this. I know what I'm doing, right? So he ran up and down the court with his eyes on the ball. Suddenly, the ball came to him out of nowhere. He had no idea what to do with it. So he just threw the ball without even thinking. He was being impulsive. He ran under the basket to keep safe from bumping into all the other players that were just running around. He just wanted to get out of there. He was too overwhelmed. He couldn't think clearly. The whistle blew. The coach asked him, what position are you playing and why are you standing under the basket? And the game was moving too quickly for him to understand which direction to throw the ball. So the coach said, go sit in the bleachers. And as this young man was walking over there, he could feel all the eyes of the other players on him. He wanted to disappear. So he picked up his things and silently walked out of the gym. The team sports can be difficult for those who have slow processing speed because they have to be able to keep up, process all the information that's being given to them, keep up with all the other players, and to know exactly what position that they're supposed to play and think quickly on their feet. It's a little bit more difficult. Here's a few things that you can watch for like if the effects of slow processing is affecting the social emotional state of your child, which it can cause them to not feel very good about themselves, to lower their self-esteem. So here's a few things that you can watch out for. They have difficulty maintaining peer relationships, suffering from low self-esteem. They struggle to keep up with the fast pace of conversation, like in the game. Feelings of overwhelm, maintaining many friendships, and avoiding team sports. So the results of these signs could lead to fewer opportunities to connect with their peers. They become, unsure of relationships, and they don't have very many friends. They can't read social cues. They may have reluctance to join in and join in with a group because they're unsure of what's happening with the peers. They can't follow conversation. They feel lost. They're alone. I have 3 strategies that you can do to improve social emotional well-being in your child with slow processing speed. You can do this at home. Okay, here's number 1. You can encourage them to practice a specific sport skill like fishing. It's like a one-on-one. Fishing, golf, archery. They don't need to be on they can be on a team, archery team, but their performance depends on just them and not having other information being brought in at the same time, having to process someone else, that's on the team. They could exercise. The endorphins give a sense of release from those symptoms of anxiety and depression that they may feel. Learn the art of relaxation, maybe like simple breathing techniques, yoga, or the EFT tapping, or listening to quiet music. Those are all different ways that they can focus themselves and help themselves to relax. So you may think that your child is lazy, but in reality they're frustrated. Their slow processing speed can take a toll on their self-esteem. And children with slow processing speed struggle with emotional guilt of disappointing family members and maybe even themselves. They're socially awkward and they can't keep up the pace of conversation between friends. And children with slow processing speed work really very hard. They want to please, but they feel alone in that they cannot keep up the pace. They burn themselves out like a car revving its engine way too long. But slow processing speed can be determined by the structure of the brain. It can be a genetic trait and often hereditary. Educators need to accept this. They need to accommodate. They need to advocate for these children. And psychologists and educators are beginning to recognize the impact slow processing speed has on children's performance in school and the impact on their self-esteem when social situations arise. So with the research out there that is showing that this is a physical problem, it's physical within the brain, it's kind of helpful in a way to know that it's not your fault. It's just the way that you are wired. And so if you know that, then you can put in place things to help you to remember. Maybe have pen and paper with you, so when somebody says where the party's going to be, or even your phone. I'm so old school. You can just grab your phone, open the phone to notes, type out where the party's going to be, what time it's going to be, what do you need to take to this party. And teach your kids to do that too. If they carry phones, then they can open to the notes section and they can actually take notes. Maybe, ask the professor later on, maybe have a private conversation with the teacher. I have difficulty in grabbing all this information so quickly. Is there any way that I can look at your notes, or could the information be put on the board so that I can get it down? They can advocate in different ways to let the teacher understand that they do have a little problem. It's not that they're being lazy, it's just that they really have difficulty in getting that information down. So there's different things that you can, if you understand what's going on with the slow processing speed, that you can empower your child, give them some ideas, and talk to the teacher and let them know, so that there are people that are there willing to help, and that your child can understand that they can advocate for themselves, and that it is a safe place to do that they understand exactly what they think. And even you can elicit information from them, what would help them to feel better about being able to process the information or to get the information that they need. They need that extra time. If there's a way that the teacher could understand that they could take classwork home, give them that break, of course, when they get home, but then to give them that extra time that they need to complete the assignment. Take that pressure off that it has to be done by a certain time. And so there are many things that can be done to help to advocate for your child, and your child can advocate for themselves as well, especially if they're a little bit older. So, want more fun to increase your child's comprehension strategies? So click and like this video, send it out to other moms who may have children who have issues with, slow processing as well, so they can watch this as well. And then if you want more information, you could click and follow this page, so that when I go live, you'll know whenever I go live. And then also we have a wonderful community of Christian moms who are searching for those effective reading strategies. It's in the Raising Kids Who Love to Read community. It's a Facebook group, and so I'll put the link up above. You can also just search for it on Facebook, Raising Kids Who Love to Read, and then there are a few questions to answer, and if you wouldn't mind, answer the questions. That way I know what issues your children are having, so that I can address those issues as well. So like I said, there's some pre-join questions if you would answer those. Oh, and I have some free resources within the group themselves as well. So I would love to meet you virtually in the group, and I would love to have you join us. So I'll talk to you guys. Bye.